Comment 59 recommends using snappy sayings for the product rule, quotient rule, and chain rule. That's for two reasons. First of all, because you can do things faster, but also because I've found over time that it helps just in a psychological way to get things more reliably right. So what do I mean by snappy little sayings? I mean the opposite of this. This is the formal version of the product rule. If y equals u times v, and u is some function of x and v equals some function of x, then dy dx equals u dv dx plus v du dx. And what I'm recommending you do instead is think of a snappy little saying. And my snappy little saying for the product rule is the fair rule. So here's an actual example. Here's a product. And so what I say is this. When you're forming the derivative, leave this alone and differentiate this. And then the other way around. Now leave this alone and differentiate this. And that's the answer. So it's nice and fair. Each thing gets its chance to be left alone. So this was left alone here, and this was left alone here, and each thing gets its chance to be differentiated. This was differentiated here, becoming that, and this was differentiated here, becoming that. So that's the one for the product rule. That's probably the simplest. Chain rule is when you have a function of a function. So for example, x squared plus x all to the power of 5. And what I recommend you do for this, the snappy saying for this, is to kind of imagine that you had kind of bad eyesight and all you could see there was just a bit of a fuzz. So there I've drawn a bit of a W. What you do is you kind of grey out your eyesight on this detail that's inside, and you just imagine differentiating these. So differentiating something to the power of 5 is 5. That's something, or W. Here I'm writing the something. So just imagine that was W to the power of 5. Now you've differentiated, it's 5W, whoops, to the power of 4. I'll give you another example. So just imagine that's 2 fuzzy things to the power of -3. Differentiate that, you get -6 fuzzy thing to the power of -4. And after having done that, this is the second part, you now multiply by the derivative of the funny thing, so of the fuzzy thing. And that's your answer. So that's the snappy little saying for the chain rule. And then the snappy little saying for the quotient rule is, this is the unfair rule, unlike the product rule. So the derivative is, leave this alone, multiplied by the derivative of that. Other way around, leave this alone, multiplied by the derivative of that, so I call it unfair because one of them definitely has to happen first, whereas the other one was separated by a plus symbol, which doesn't matter what order you do it in. And the other reason why it's unfair is that this guy, not that guy, but the denominator, gets to be put again on the bottom, but boosted up into a square, and that's your quotient rule. I'll give you another example. Leave the bottom alone, differentiate the top. Leave the top alone, differentiate the bottom, and divide by the square of the bottom. So they're the snappy sayings for the product quotient and chain rule.